Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Gorilla Press Wrestling News and Commentary. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I am your host, Josh. Welcome to the show, you guys. Welcome to Saturday, man. I hope you guys are having an unbelievable weekend out there. I know I had a nice and relaxing day, just trying to put this show together, figuring out, all of my topic points. I'm not going to have a lot of visual stuff for you guys to read into, but I'm pretty sure that you guys are going to be able to follow along nicely, and I think you guys are going to enjoy this show. So the topic of this show is a new era begins, and what does that mean? Well, as we know, as fans of wrestling, throughout all the long years of being a fan, whether you're even a new fan, I know new fans hear all the time of the past eras. Like, for instance, this Monday coming up, they're having a Raw reunion, so they're going to have a whole bunch of legends that are going to be on the show. And over a period of time, the wrestling world just goes through changes, and we call them eras. And so you had the past, the era that made probably 90% of the current fans right now, which was the Hulk Hogan era, the Andre the Giants, the Macho Mans, Ric Flairs, so forth and so forth. And then you had the famous Attitude Era. The Attitude Era, in my book, took pro wrestling to a whole nother level. The Attitude Era, we had WCW at its height. You had WWE at its height. Never been bigger before. It's hard to say whether it's been as big since, but that's definitely a point that could be argued, I'm sure. And then you moved into the Ruthless Aggression Era, which didn't last very long, to be honest, because they moved right into the PG era. And the Ruthless Aggression Era really started, I would say the tipping point to the Ruthless Aggression period was with John Cena, Kurt Angle. Vince McMahon wanted people to be pissed off, and John Cena said, "Hi, I'm your butt kisser. I'm your man. I'll be Ruthless Aggression." Goes out there, says Ruthless Aggression to Kurt Angle, and hit the floor running, and that basically started the man that was going to be the face of the company for a very, very long time. Then we moved into the PG era, which is what we're kind of sort of currently ending. Things are, they're starting to say a bit more foul words, starting to cuss more. Women are starting to get a little bit more scantily. They're starting to get a little bit more controversial in terms of some of the content that they have. And now we're currently in a merge phase. What is the new era going to bring? What's going to happen? Where are they going to take it? Are we going to get another Attitude Era? Are we going to get another Ruthless Aggression Era? Are we going to get a combination of the Hulk Hogan era mixed in with the Attitude Era, or a combination of either ors? I don't know. But I know how they're going to start it. And they're going to start it with an announcement that took place just a couple of weeks ago, which has already started its process with Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff. Now, what does this mean? What can happen here? Because at first there was a lot of people that were very, very skeptical of the fact that they were going to take over, that they were going to just be characters. On-screen characters again, here we go. And there was a few people that are actually kind of excited, thinking, well, maybe they're going to general manage, one or the other again, because that actually wasn't a bad period there. However, something was missing. Something was missing, and I'm pretty sure I know what that is. And we're going to get into that as we progress. What I want to do right now with you guys watching this show is I would like to go through the steps. What does each man bring to the table? Because here's what they're going to be doing. They're going to be in charge of production of the show. They're going to be in charge of creative to a point. Eric Bischoff is not going to be in charge of creative to a point, but Paul Heyman is going to be a big part in terms of creative, which I think is huge. At the end of the day, we need to break it down. What are each one of these men's strengths? Because they're actually going to be big players. They're going to be big dogs. Okay? These guys are going to be pushing the brands. Okay? Now, in my opinion, one of the biggest flaws of WWE, if you caught my Thursday or my Friday show, this will kind of give you a little bit of where I'm going with this opinion. But there's a lot of different variables in my book on what's going on. But they have a huge amount of numbers. 145 people are currently staffed on the main roster as of right now. That's not including NXT. NXT, you can add another 40. The numbers play a part. You got so many people that you're going to have to work with. It's ridiculous. And each one of these guys, Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman, they're going to have to work with everybody. All of these, all because SmackDown is moving to Fox doesn't mean that only half the roster is moving to Fox and the other half is going to stay on USA. They're going to have to work with both. So they're actually going to have to mesh and work together to create one big giant brand at certain points. Obviously, SmackDown's going to be produced a certain way. Raw's going to be produced a certain way. Why are they splitting this up? And I can tell you it's quite simple. With Paul Heyman being on one side and Eric Bischoff being on the other, you're going to have two completely different shows. You're not going to get the same SmackDown show that you just saw on Raw yesterday. You're not going to get the same the same thing. It's all going to be different. That's going to separate the two brands, so to speak, in a way. Okay? In a way. Now, one thing that these guys need to work on right now is telling these wrestlers that they need to pick their passion up. A lot of these wrestlers have worked day in and day out for majority of their careers working on the wrestling ability. Guys that go to New Japan, most of their roster are Japanese-speaking individuals. It's really difficult to speak English and put on a promo for the Japanese. Obviously, it could be done. I'm not saying that New Japan is against that stuff. Don't get it twisted here. All I'm saying is that when you've got an American accent going up against a Japanese accent, it's really difficult to mesh the two. Where it does come in is inside the ring. That's where the stories are really told in productions like that. And that's fine. But in the WWE world, the AEW world, that's a very difficult sell. Very difficult sell. And I kind of firmly believe that these guys haven't had the ability to tell a story outside the ring. That's where I believe Paul Heyman comes in. Paul Heyman has, if all of you guys watch wrestling, Paul Heyman, it is obvious he can put on the best promos in the game. Nobody can pitch a promo like Paul Heyman. Nobody can spew the passion, the intensity, and make you feel that promo. Whether it's anger, happiness, joy, sadness, it don't matter. You're going to feel it one way or another. Sometimes you're so pissed at his promo, you want to smack him upside the jaw. The next minute you're like, damn, I can't wait for this match. Because he's the best. Period. And if you don't believe me, go look at some of CM Punk stuff. Go look at some of Stone Cold stuff. Look at a lot of those guys coming out of the ECW locker room. They put on these amazing promos. And that's because guys like Paul Heyman sit down with each and every person and talk to them. And teach them and say, look, that was great, but let's just get a little bit more grit. Or let's get a little less of this. And really dials them up to a level that they've never been before. And they get this ability to just tell an amazing story. And that's where I really believe that Paul Heyman's strengths is really going to come in. And his creative ability is phenomenal because he can see the talent in people. And he can see the talent beyond the ring. The ring is fine. In-ring ability is great. Listen, when you make it to WWE, your in-ring ability is pretty much set in stone. They're not going to help you out nearly as much as what they're willing to help you out with on the promo side. Because they already know you've been taking bumps for 20 years. Since some of these guys have been taking bumps since they were teenagers. So it's not like, they're going to just start you off fresh, right off the street, never taking a bump in your life, and putting you onto the main roster. Has that happened? Yeah, it has. Many times. Look at Mark Henry. But Mark Henry also wasn't the greatest wrestler on the planet. However, he stuck around for a very long time. He's a Hall of Famer. So you take that with a grain of salt. Now, where do we get in with Eric Bischoff here, right? Eric Bischoff is one hell of a promoter. I mean, he became the president of WCW. How? How did a guy like Eric Bischoff go from being a goober in the back to becoming an announcer, and then moving up from there and becoming the president of the entire company, just underneath, the big dog Ted Turner? It's because he's amazing at promotion. He's got great ideas. He has the ability, but here's the thing. He was learning in WCW. He was learning. And look what he did. If that's his learning curve, and you overtake the one company that actually ran over everybody else, and you took them at one point, that's scary. That is scary to even fathom. And I kind of believe that Eric Bischoff, over the years, he's aged, he's gotten older, he's gotten wiser, and I definitely believe that he's gotten more humble. And you can hear that in a lot of his interviews that he conducts. And I've watched a lot of Eric Bischoff interviews, and he just has this sense of humility about him that's a lot different than before. See, before he was just a character, but now he's actually in a huge operating role that nobody, not one single person since WWE has been taken over by Vince McMahon, has ever had the opportunity to do. And that is take over a major program, meaning SmackDown for him and Raw for Paul Heyman. These guys have the chance of a lifetime. And kudos to Vince McMahon for looking at both of these men saying, at one point, you guys were my competitors. And saying, you know what? I'm going to bring both of you guys on because in the history of wrestling, you two posed my biggest threats in my road. So I'm going to bring you in on my team, and we're going to take on AEW the right way, together. He obviously sees that there's a problem within the promotion. Vince McMahon does. And I think where the main problem lies right now, the number one issue that I have, besides the big amount of numbers, which I think plays a part in this problem, is passion. I think the passion is there for the ring, inside that ring, in their tights, wearing all their oil, dumping all their water on their head, and going out there and performing physically. I think that's where their passion lies. I think where they screw up is when they hold the microphone in their hand. That's where all the passion goes away. Guys like Stone Cold and I can't even say that because guys like The Rock, even he had to be toned. Even he had to be kind of coached along, and he was coached along by guys like Farouk and of course family, because shit, they've probably got the biggest wrestling family on the planet. I really don't know. It's ridiculous how many people are in that family that wrestle, but even he had to be coached along. Even he had to be told, look, man, you got to gain a bit more charisma. You got to be a little bit more, you got a killer personality. You got to let that shine. And I'm going to give you guys an example, okay? And it was a recent example, okay? The Rock versus John Cena, okay? I'm sorry. I take that back. Roman Reigns versus John Cena. Roman Reigns, John Cena. What I am talking about showed 1,000 times over in one particular segment. And Roman and John had one of the most real segments I've seen in wrestling in a long time, and it was an obvious situation, and it was total kayfabe. It was not scripted at all, and they had a legit verbal battle in the middle of the ring, and John Cena shut Roman down. He shut him down, and what had happened was Roman started talking noise, couldn't get the words out, getting pissed off. John Cena was spewing stuff left and right that was just absolutely killer because John Cena could put on a hell of a fucking promo as well. John Cena's good, but he comes from that type of period. And I guarantee you he wasn't natural at it. He might have been able to rap in his early days, but they brought him up for those promos. They taught him those promos on how to push and portray that promo. And John Cena then comes straight out on live TV and says, come on, Roman, let's get it out. Go ahead and find it. Because Roman's like, 1, you need to shut the hell up. 2, you need to nothing. And Cena's like, come on, Roman, you can get it out. Go ahead and find it. And then he's like, you know what, man? He's like, if you want to be it's come on, Roman. It's called a promo. If you want to be the big dog, you're going to have to learn how to do this stuff. I mean, it doesn't get any more blatant than that. That's everything that I'm saying right now in an absolute nutshell. These guys don't know what the hell they're doing. And I know for a fact, that WWE has sent Roman Reigns to acting school. I know for a fact it's go look it up. And I'm sure that they've done this with a lot of people. Because a lot of people don't put time into Finn Balor, for instance. Finn Balor's promos suck. They're god awful, but Jesus Christ, is he talented in the ring. Just awful. Awful. Brock Lesnar, for God's sakes, he can't cut a fucking promo to save his goddamn life. That's why they got Paul Heyman on him. You know, and it's just these guys can't cut it. They can't cut it. Now, you get people like Alexa Bliss, and Alexa Bliss is working with a top indie star right now. WWE has hired him to specifically, work with her. And that is starting to show, because you can see it in her promos that she's even improved compared to how she was 2 years ago. She has even improved. They have to take time to learn what they're going to be portraying in that ring at all times, whether it is in the ring or outside the ring. Now, here's something that I want to put out to you guys too. All the way up until the social media years, WWE wrestlers, and even WCW wrestlers for that matter, okay, they could not travel. If you were a babyface, you had to travel with babyface characters. If you were a heel character, you could only travel with heel characters. You weren't allowed to take photos with heel characters if you were a babyface. You weren't allowed to interact with them. You weren't allowed to be seen hanging out with them at a bar. And you always had to be your character. If you were going by that character's name, you had to be that character, no matter what. And, for me, that's actually an impressive thing, because that forces each and every wrestler to be that character all the time. And what that does, in my eyes, is that helps build a, how do I say it? It builds a personality for that character. You run into situations with that character, and you figure out how you're going to work around that situation, and you figure it out, and now you've gained an experience with that character. The same thing in real life, you guys. If you guys go out there and something happens, somebody says something about your mama, how are you going to handle it? As the person that you are, how are you going to handle it? Well, let's say that you are Joe Schmo WWE superstar, and you have to be that character, and you have to take care of that situation as that character. Well, then how is your character going to handle that scenario? If you're running that character all the time in the public eye, well, there you have it. I mean, when these guys would go on talk shows, okay, whether it was, Jay Leno, or any of those type of shows, The Night Show, whatever, The Late Show, any of those type of shows, those guys went on as their character. Hogan, Macho Man. Hell, fucking Macho Man would go in with his full in-ring gear. His tights, his wrestling boots, his hat, his jacket that was all decked out, colorful, his sunglasses he wore. He bring the belt, and he was the Macho Man. Oh, yeah. All the time. I mean, he talked like that in real life, but Jesus Christ, he was like that all the time. When he was going to show himself in public, he went balls out. Hogan, even. Hogan would wear the shirt with the tears in it and the Hulkamania, bandana, and what you gonna do, brother, when he was balls out. When you had the Undertaker go on Jay Leno, he was a scary fucker when he went on Jay Leno. He was the Undertaker. He wasn't the regular guy. He was the Undertaker. And then just recently, you had Roman Reigns, Alexa Bliss. You had, God, I don't even remember, AJ, I believe. All of these guys that went on these late shows together, and they were out of character. They were just themselves. They were calling themselves Alexa Bliss, Roman Reigns, and so and so, but they weren't that character. They weren't their character. They were dressed up in fancy clothes, wearing suits and ties. And is that the Roman Reigns that you really know? Is that the in-ring Roman that you know? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. You know Roman Reigns is the guy that wears the vest and wears his pants and his boots, and he's ready to freaking take on somebody. But you don't get that Roman on these talk shows. You get the Roman wearing a Versace suit with a nice tie, and he's all smiling, go lucky. And then you get the Alexa Bliss and the super fancy clothes and the red carpet bullshit. I don't want red carpet. This is fucking wrestling. Bring the passion. Build your characters. That's a major, major problem for wrestling today. That's what AEW is doing right now. They want these guys to be their characters. Because let me tell you something. Who they are as an individual should come second. I don't want to see, Mrs. and Mrs. Miz bullshit. I don't want to fucking see that crap. I don't even want to watch the show. I can honestly tell you I haven't made it past 5 minutes of one of those shows. Because I don't give a shit what they do at home. All I care about is what is inside that ring. Period. I don't care that they're going to have a fucking baby. I don't care about any of that shit. I want to see The Miz as a character. The A-lister. That's who I want to see. All the time. I want to see that character. I know with social media, it's difficult. I understand that times are different, you know what I mean? And these guys are more exposed. I understand that. Come on now. I'm on YouTube telling you guys what I feel. So nobody knows more than me about social media and putting yourself out there. But here's the thing. These guys as characters, at one point, were gods. They were sought after more than your top movie stars. People were proud to wear their t-shirts. Now, people have gone back to the way it is in the 80s, and they don't even want to talk about it in the parking lot at a grocery store. Because they're afraid somebody else is going to hear them that they're talking about wrestling and they're going to be judged. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that nobody wants to watch shit. Nobody wants to watch a soap opera with shithead actors that can't act. They want to see real characters. Characters that put passion in everything. Their mic abilities, their wrestling abilities, and their out-of-ring interaction with the fans. It's a big problem. And that's why these stories suck. All the fucking time. They always suck. And it hurts as a fan. It really hurts. But here's the thing. The big reason why I love wrestling so much is I know that nothing is going to stay the same. Everything, always, it's always going to change. Things are always going to get bigger. They're always going to get better. And even though they hit a dark spot, I know that there's going to be light at the end of the wrestling tunnel. And no matter what, no matter how hard it gets, because I know I've been little, aggravated for the last 30 minutes, but don't think that I think that this is all bad. Because we have a new era on the way, and new era means new things, new stories. Because when you're PG, you're stuck in a box, in a really small box, and you can't do much outside of that. Because if you do, then you're touching along the lines of you're being too provocative, you're being a little bit, insultive or whatever, offensive. That's a big word nowadays, is offensive. Everybody's offended of something of another. If that doesn't annoy the shit out of you, I don't know what does, but that annoys the piss out of me. I think it's healthy to be offended, especially in wrestling, because you have to have a good versus evil. You can't have good without evil in any aspect of life. That is life. You can't have an in-between. There's nothing in between. It's either good or it's evil. And that's why superheroes work. Because it's good versus evil. You want to see Captain America win. I want to see these characters win. And they need to figure it out. And I think with the likes of Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff, yes, they will be on two different shows. Paul Heyman is going to be working directly with USA because he's going to be a producer. Eric Bischoff is going to be working with Fox because he is a producer. You're going to be working together, making sure that the content is healthy and strong, and that it fits the channel's main guidelines of health. And I believe that that with their ideas and the fact that Eric Bischoff's been sitting in at home watching wrestling every single week going, I probably would change this, or I'd probably change this, or whatever. And now he's going to come in with a whole slew of brand new stuff that we can possibly do. Now, he's not going to be so much a part of creative as Paul Heyman may be, but he can still have a kind of hint towards direction. And say, look, this is what I have to promote. Create me something that's going to work with this. Give me something that I can take to Vince, and Vince will sign off for me. Or even if it's a situation that Vince wants to control the show, creatively, maybe Vince will give them the idea. They take that idea and they build it. They write it. They push it. They make it work. That is always a good thing in a way, because if you could take somebody else's idea and turn it into gold, maybe you're going to give those ideas a new reign. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just going to be the constant blah, blah, blah. It's actually going to be an exciting thing. I really have some high hopes, because if anybody believes in a world of anything that AEW is going to be able to take out WWE, get a life. You have no fucking clue about anything. WWE is global. Period. They are not just the giant in the room. They are the line in the sand. They drew it. And they're stepping on it. And they're blocking everybody from doing it. Now, here's where I think AEW is going to come in. Is that competition always makes people better. Competition always makes people better. It's better for us because it forces them to do better. And WWE has the money and the brain power to do better. They can afford it. They can afford it 10 times over. Because I don't care how much money Khan has. WWE as a global company is worth far more than that. Good luck purchasing WWE. So, where do I feel that these problems are going to get fixed? Well, one, when it comes to creative, in terms of passion, Paul Heyman's going to push it. Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman are not going to have a choice but to work together in some way, shape, or form. Because Paul Heyman can't get Roman Reigns on Tuesday night and then make him wear purple pants and a fluffy shirt. And then Paul Heyman get him on Monday and he's back to wearing his vest and pants and his boots. Doesn't work that way. So they're going to have to work together to keep these characters relevant. They're going to have to. And that's why I think that Eric Bischoff isn't going to be so much a part of creative than Paul will. Because I don't think they need Bischoff for that. They need him for other things. Way more things than that. Paul will handle that. Paul will handle that. So